Welcome back to Todd's Country Living. As I was working on my wagon project and I started working on a seat, I encountered some compound miters on the seat that I need to deal with. And so I thought this would be a good opportunity to give a little segment on compound miters and things to look for with your chop saw, things to look for as you're doing the compound miters. Okay, so you can see here that what we've got is we've got a 90-degree angle here. The back of the seat slopes back 18 degrees and the side of the seat slopes 18 degrees. Therefore, that's giving you a compound miter cut between these three angles. And a compound miter cut is where you've got more than one angle coming together. Okay, so let's get started. What we have here is we've got a 90-degree angle here. We've got a 90-degree angle here, 90-degree angle right here. Okay, what I've done is cut an 18-degree angle cut on the bottom of each of these boards. We still have our 90 here. And now I need to cut this so that these two boards come together and meet up here at the top. Okay, we've cut the 18-degree angle on the end of this board so it'll slide over and meet up with this. We've got our 90 here. We've got our 18 here, but our 90 degree is gone now. That's the beauty of your compound cuts. Now we have to change this 90-degree angle that was on the end of this board to make it so that it'll close this gap up and make a much better fit. Okay, I set my saw for 10 degrees here. We have 18 here, 18 degrees this way, 90 degrees this way, and this comes together and they are good and flush. That's a good tight glue joint right there. So you can see on the back side, we lost our 90, but we had to adjust for this compound miter cut. Okay, it's a very good practice if you are not going to be doing many compound cuts on your chop saw to put it all back to zero. And I'll tell you why here shortly. Okay, there's been a few times where I've gotten some lumber, I've gotten everything set up, in the shop, I'm ready, I'm measuring my material, I'm cutting it to length, everything, only later to find out my chop saw was not at zero. And therefore, my cuts are not square, I've wasted some lumber, and so it's always a good practice if you're starting a new job, check your chop saw for zero on your angles, check your table saw for zero on your angles, and that way you don't waste any wood that way. A way to check your square on your chop saw is you can take your framer square. Okay, with your saw set at zero, you put your framer square up against the fence and line that up with the laser that is beside the blade, and you can check to see if your saw's cutting square. Okay, and with your saw unplugged, you can take a small framing square, you can get down here, cutting straight up and down on zero, just like it indicates back here. Now, if you've got a brand new chop saw, don't rely on the company that made the chop saw to put this on true zero. Same with this zero down here. You need to check it. That way you don't waste any materials. Now I know there's math formulas out there for figuring out how to do compound miter cuts. I believe that's in trigonometry. And there are some people out there that are very gifted in that area on knowing how to come up with a mathematical formula on figuring out your different angles and everything. I'm not one of those people. And so through a lot of trial and error, fitting the pieces together, the best thing to do is start with some scrap and practice on your scrap material before you start working on your good lumber, so that you don't come up with any mistakes and have to get rid of the good lumber. If you make a mistake on your scrap lumber, it's no big deal. You haven't messed up or lost any of your good lumber.